Explains. Dave, welcome again. We are really excited to have you here.
Thanks for having me. Yeah, happy to be here.
Normally, I would first give brief information about the speaker, but I think today it would be better to hear you better to hear your story from you, since we all know who you are.
Sure.
I will first talk about the event and then leave the stage to you to start your presentation, your speech.
Okay.
In our ChemTalks events, we aim to introduce different aspects of the science of chemistry with the participation of people who are competent in their field and want to help people who are interested in science. If you have questions, you can ask to my clubmates who are also co-hosts via chats, or you can click to raise hand button and wait for your turn to speak. If there's a question independent of the presentation, my clubmates will try to answer it in the same way. Please pay attention to keep the microphones turned off in order to not to distract the speaker during the program flow. Before we start, I want to thank you, Dave, for every video that saved me. You literally saved me countless times when I couldn't understand the topic. I really appreciate what you're doing.
All right. That's good to hear. I like that good positive feedback. Makes a difference.
Yeah, you can start whenever you're ready.
Okay, so yeah, I guess this is a rare opportunity to tell like the full long-winded origin story. So I guess I'll spare no detail. So where to start? I mean, I always loved science. I guess I'll just start with the education itself. I wasn't went to college and was kind of deciding what to major in. I already knew I was very passionate about music. So that's the thing that most people don't know, is that actually music has always been kind of my thing and what I intended to do with my life, and still do. But so in college, I already knew, like, all right, I'm going to be in bands. I was a drummer and I'm going to play in bands. That's what I want to do for my life. However, somehow I had the foresight and the maturity to choose a practical major. I thought, all right, I'm going to do music on my own time. But then, I'm at this great institution. I went to a place called Carleton College in Minnesota, which is a really great small liberal arts college. And so I chose chemistry. I was like, all right, physics, chemistry, math. I was definitely a math and science kind of guy. And so I chose chemistry. It just sort of, after I took OChem 1, I was really fascinated by it. And I just thought, oh, this is so cool. We're building molecules. It's like Legos. I thought it was so interesting. And so I chose chemistry as a major and did pretty well. I wasn't like, standout student of the class or anything. I just, I did fairly well. And then after that, I actually went to UC Santa Cruz and was in a graduate program there for synthetic organic chemistry. Even though I really didn't intend to do chemistry, it was sort of an excuse to move to California. I wanted to move to California. I wanted to play music, and I thought, all right, I'll be in an academic environment, and also I'll be able to TA. So that's like a job. I was TAing, and I was making like $1,400 a month or something, which was enough for rent and a little bit of food. So I was like, all right, cool, we got a job. And but I found a band right away to play with, and so we moved up to San Francisco. They wanted to move to San Francisco, so I was like, great, I'll quit school. That's totally fine. And so I was playing in bands up there, moved down to LA with a different band. All the while, throughout my 20s, my most marketable skill was just explaining chemistry. That's what I had learned, and I had gotten pretty good at explaining these concepts of general chemistry, organic chemistry. I would tutor, I would substitute teach, and then eventually in Los Angeles, I got a job at this trade university. And so what had happened was there was an organic chemistry course and there was a lecture and a lab component. It was a weekend accelerated course for like kind of young adults getting post-baccalaureate credits to apply to various medical programs. So a lot of students like in their 20s, even in their 30s. And so I got hired for the lab component because for the lab component, you didn't need an advanced degree. And I had quit my master's program. So I was hired to teach the lab. And then on the first day, the lecture instructor had this freak out and just took off. So my boss came to me and said, hey, you have to go teach the lecture right now because there's nobody here. We don't have time to hire another instructor or anything. You're the only one here who can do it. Presumably, we assume you can do it, so go do it. And this was a weekend accelerated situation, so it was 5 hours of lecture, 5 hours of lab, Saturday, Sunday. So it was this really long lecture. So I kind of got through the first lecture just doing like organic nomenclature or stuff that I could remember off the top of my head. And then I took the textbook home and I planned what I was going to do the next day. And then that week I planned what I was going to do that weekend, you know, all the typical OChem stuff, OChem 1 stuff. And then, so I finished that course, and then the instructor came back and he was like, okay, great. He'll take over again. But then the following semester, he started doing some engaging in this really weird behavior. It turned out he was an alcoholic, and there's just a lot of problems. And so again, they were like, all right, this guy's canned. It's an emergency. We don't have time to hire anybody else. You're going to teach OChem 2 now because he finished 1, so you're going to do 2. And so again, I kind of filled in and did a good job. And they're like, okay, great. You did a good job both times. We want to hire you, but you don't have a master's degree, and that's a requirement to teach the lecture. So we'll bend the rules. As long as you're concurrently enrolled in a master's program, and we'll pay for it, you can teach the lecture. And so I went to grad school again. I was going to CSUN, Cal State Northridge, and was doing again synthetic organic chemistry. Did most of that program. Then there was a bunch of bureaucratic stuff that happened, and I got let go from that job. Part of it had to do with a change in personnel. They wanted me to make all these changes to this course that I had perfected over 3.5 years, which I didn't respond kindly to. Also, some responsibilities I was shirking because at that time, I was in a touring band, and so my priorities had started shifting over to this touring band that looked like it was going to be very successful. So that job kind of slipped away, and then my funding got cut off, so I quit that second grad school attempt as well. Eventually, I did get a master's in science education, but then around 2014, I was touring with that band, and we were in the van all the time, cross country, and we were trying to figure out ways to make passive income because we would tour a lot and do pretty well on the road, but we weren't taking home a lot of income to pay rent. So we all had our little ideas. Mine was a YouTube channel, and I thought, oh, it was only, I'm fresh off of this like 3.5-year stint teaching OChem. I have all these lectures. I have all these concepts in my head. I can explain this stuff pretty well. So I'll just, I'll deliver my lectures to camera and put them on YouTube, and I'll make some branding, a little theme song, and we'll see what that does. Maybe I'll make some money there, and then I'll be okay being on the road all the time because I have a little bit of money, passive income coming in that way. And so I did that, and OChem students were responsive. They thought, oh, this is great, because at that time there was not that much. There was like some Khan Academy lectures. There really wasn't a whole lot of OChem lecture material, so people liked it, and they let me know. And so I started to do a little more. I planned some general chemistry stuff with the animations, and decided to up the production value a little bit. And again, I got really great response from that. And then in 2016, the band began to not really work out for a variety of reasons. And excuse me. And so that 2016 was a really, really hard year for me because I saw this band that I thought was really going to go the distance for me. I saw that begin to crumble, and I was really heartbroken about that. And I kind of felt that I had no, really this channel that was in its embryonic stage was kind of the only thing I had. And so I thought, all right, this is the only thing that's working. I have nothing else. I was like, I don't know, 31 at the time. So I was like, just really disenfranchised with music. And I saw this channel. I said, all right, this is kind of working. What'll happen if I just really, really go for it with this thing? What if I do this for 70 hours a week for 5 years? What if I just do this relentlessly until this is doing something, or this is working, or become, it can become something that matters. And so that's what I did. And I went and I did biochem, and then biology and math, and just started going through all these different subjects, and studying up and creating the content, and then eventually beginning to like hire some other writers to help me write the content. And that's just what I've been doing since 2016. Mid 2016 was around the time where I just completely pivoted and sort of let the artistic muscles atrophy and just focus on becoming a science communicator. And it was about a 5-year plan. It's been about 5 years, and I'm very happy to report that it's, well, everyone's familiar with the channel, so definitely you've seen the growth, and very pleased with the growth. and it's very invigorating to be able to create content that that does generate the views, but then also, you know, hearing the feedback as you know, as you mentioned earlier, students you know, vocalizing their appreciation about not understanding what's going on in class, and then viewing a tutorial and having that light bulb moment where something clicks. I mean, definitely there's no other thing I could be doing that's both you know, generating income for me, as well as providing something that has utility, that actually can better society in some small ways. So yeah, the Professor Dave Explains is now the thing I'm proudest of in my life, certainly, and the thing that occupies the most of my time. And I look forward to continuing to create all this content. So that's pretty much the origin story. I'd love to talk more about the channel. Let me know which direction you want to go here. I'm definitely happy to talk more about my process, my goals, you know, pretty much anything you guys want to talk about.
I think you can tell us more about your channel.
Mm-hmm.
What do you think how it's going to be for you in a few years?
Okay, yeah. So that's it's a very, very exciting time for me right now, because as of the past year or so, or especially in the past couple of months, the channel is finally generating an amount of passive income whereby my rent and bills, you know, all of my overhead is met comfortably, and then I have additional revenue to begin to hire people. So I actually recently hired my first animator, so that I can push some of the post production onto somebody else, because you know, up until now I've been doing 100%, you know, all of the animating and all, you know, just everything about running the channel has fallen on me. You know, when you're investing in something, you're either investing money or you're investing time, and I didn't have any money, so I invested time. Now I've got some money coming in, and it's certainly not, you know, I'm not like a crash course or like one of these big giant channels, but it is finally generating enough income that I've hired one animator, and it's thankfully working out this time. I've tried a couple of times before to hire an animator, and it just did not work. But this time it's working, and I have a lot of writers working for me. So I'm a member of a couple of Slack groups for sci-commers or scientists who are looking to get into SciComm. And so I find experts in immunology and you know, microbiology and all these different fields, and you know, see which of them are interested in writing scripts. And so I get these experts contributing their knowledge to the channel. And so the goal with the channel has become to cover literally every academic subject. So certainly I'm continuing with the physical sciences and the biological sciences and biomedical topics and things like that. But I'm even now branching into social sciences and humanities, so history, economics. Right now I'm planning a political science series. There's going to be world history, you know, religion, philosophy, that kind of stuff. Have done a little bit with language. I did an Italian series, collaborating with my mother, who teaches Italian, and I, you know, I grew up speaking the language, so I was able to do the pronunciation. I think I can probably pull off Spanish, maybe Latin. That's about it, though. So I definitely can't do every language, but we'll be going into. I'll probably bring some of the music in there, music theory, maybe some elements of music performance with piano and drums and some kind of percussion. And then, of course, continuing with, you know, all the sciences. Right now I'm working on earth sciences. So I just did botany. I'm in the middle of mycology, and then next will be zoology, ecology, geology, environmental science. So definitely I'm nothing if not ambitious. I'm trying to really cover everything that there is, and I feel that I've found sort of a sweet spot of an aesthetic that is not as expensive to pull off as some really highly produced, you know, immaculate, you know, like a crash course where it's but I think I found an aesthetic that is something that can be pulled off without an enormous amount of man hours. That's still palatable and visually pleasing, and quite a bit different from like a blackboard style, you know, just somebody drawing on their tablet. It's kind of in the middle there. So it's something that, you know, my goal is to inspire the public to take it upon themselves to self-learn, because I know certainly that OChem students are watching, and not that your average person would necessarily want to go through my entire OChem series. That might be overkill, but I really am passionate about public science literacy, and I think that it's a big problem right now that there's all of these things going on in medicine and in physics and in, you know, all these fields that the public just it cannot engage in informed discourse about these topics, because they just do not understand the very basics, the fundamentals. And so I would like to inspire people to, hey, you know, I'm going to watch a couple of biochem tutorials. I'm going to watch a couple of physics tutorials. I'm going to get that basic vocabulary down such that, you know, I can sniff out these kinds of lies. You know, when Kaufman says, you know, viruses are actually exosomes and stuff like this. Wow, no, definitely not. And because I understand basic biology, or, you know, these kinds of topics, you know, we can elevate the public you know, understanding of science above a level where these kinds of con artists can take hold on people. So that's, yeah, my goal is definitely, I want to keep pumping out the content. I've pulled back a little bit for the summer to just kind of regroup a little bit, but my goal is 3 to 5 tutorials per week for the next. It's going to take me another 20-30 years probably to cover every single academic subject known to man, but that is the goal. We're going to hit it all, and try to help, you know, try to inspire the public to want to learn things and recognize the value of knowledge and take it upon themselves to try to acquire it. So,
do you have any future plans besides your YouTube channel?
yes. So both SciComm and art, obviously. So SciComm, well, I just released my first book, or my first book just came out in March. It's called "Is This Wi-Fi Organic?" So that's sort of taking, actually quite aligned with what I just said. Sort of taking the fundamentals that I just described in chemistry, biochemistry, biology, physics, and using them to analyze fads and hoaxes, misinformation that's rampant in science, and just it's a little bit of social commentary in terms of how the public perceives science, what the public is wrong about, why that is the case, a little bit of the psychology behind it, the anti-establishment bias, things like that, and just sort of analyzing that whole situation. So writing is one. I, you know, may or may not write more books. I'm very interested in doing television and public speaking and things like that. I'd like to be as much of a public figure as possible in the way of, I'd like to be sort of an ambassador to the scientific community. You know what I mean? I think that SciComm is really picking up steam now. I mean, now in the sense that people even have heard of science communication. I will admit, I was a science communicator before I even knew that science communication was a thing. Somebody told me, "Oh, you're a science communicator," in like 2016. I was like, "Huh, yeah, I guess I am." That is what I, you know, um, because people think that science communication must exclusively be done by scientists, because that's what we've seen. You know, everybody knows about Sagan, and Sagan is a titan in SciComm, and then moving into, you know, Neil Tyson and these kinds of figures, that is no longer the case. We are now seeing a shift in the student population, whereby they are getting a bachelor's in some scientific field and then are going directly into a graduate program for science communication. There are SciComm master's programs at a few institutions. UC Santa Cruz actually has one. And soon we'll be seeing PhD programs in SciComm. And so people are going to be going directly from undergrad into SciComm to prepare for careers, whether we're talking about things like what I do, or science journalism, or there are actually SciComm positions in academic institutions in a particular department. There could be one SciComm that's in charge of public outreach, or writing the grant proposals, or whatever it is, doing the communication aspects so that the scientists themselves don't have to do it. So I think that the public is going to get more and more accustomed to SciComm coming from SciCommers rather than scientists, and I think that's a great thing, because scientists are very busy doing science, and if they don't want to communicate their science, they shouldn't have to. That's my job. Let me do that. That's what I think about all day long. Here's some science that some scientists did. How do we get the public to understand what they're doing? And I'm going to spend all day thinking about that and figuring out what combination of words and visuals to use to convey to the public what it is that they do, in a way that is so thorough and so clear that it can no longer be hidden for personal financial gain. And, oh, this is what pharma's doing. This is what blah, blah, blah is doing. Buy my all natural supplements, this kind of stuff. The landscape is completely saturated right now with con men who are trying to do that. They're deliberately confusing the public and muddying the waters for personal financial gain. So it will take a monumental effort by hundreds of people such as myself. Definitely, I want to do as much as I can, but I can't do it by myself. So there's got to be a lot of people, and I'm looking forward to seeing this next crop of young SciCommers that are going to dedicate their lives to this task. And I hope to be somewhat of a prominent figure in this movement, but it's going to take a lot of people, and so I look forward to over the coming decades being a figure in that movement and helping to educate the public. So certainly SciComm will be a big part of my life, obviously for the rest of my life. Just to answer your question completely, I do identify as an artist first and foremost, and I have my plans for art. So I'm actually getting back to music now, and have been writing some music, and just hired a band to start to perform live now that COVID is sort of ramping down. I'm looking forward to, ideally in the fall, as early as in the fall, starting to get back out there and playing live music. Just I'm looking forward to getting back to a little bit more of an artist's lifestyle, because I spent my 20s doing art but not having any money, and then I spent the last 5 years getting money but not having any time to do any art. So finally I will have enough money to also have my time back and then do art with money. That's never been possible for me before. So the next couple years we will see if I can remember how to be an artist and be a good one. So that will be happening as well. Mm-hmm.
We have some questions from the audience.
Sure.
How does it feel to be? How does it feel to be of help to millions of people around the globe?
Yeah, it feels great. I mean, I'm going to be honest. When I first started the channel, I didn't really think about who would be watching.
Something like that. I mean, it's like
a
huge thing.
Yeah, I certainly did not expect what it's become now. I was hoping that, some OChem students would watch my OChem tutorials. I could make a couple hundred bucks a month, and just sort of like, okay, I got a little bit of money coming in. And I definitely didn't think, I was very naive and not really considering the international community. It was only once I started getting YouTube comments and emails from people in developing nations saying, thank you, like, I don't have access to educational resources. I don't have access to textbooks. I don't have access to people who know how to teach this stuff. This is how I'm learning this. This is the only way I did not even consider that possibility. So once I started realizing that was the case, I began to take that role a little more seriously. And that's actually why, in all my content, I speak very slowly and I enunciate very clearly, because I want to have good diction so that people for whom English is a second language can understand me. So, I talk like that a lot, which is, I think I am a very clear speaker in general, but when I'm filming content, I think about that because I want that person in Africa or in Southeast Asia or wherever they are to be able to understand me. And learn, because I can't speak all of everybody's languages. And so that, and yeah, I mean, nothing feels better than that, because in the end, everybody wants to do something that that is going to do well for themselves and make themselves successful financially and stable financially while making a difference. And so to have found the thing that is both, I mean, this is something that is gonna, in the long run, ideally generate me a lot of income, but also there's no way that I could contribute more to mankind. I mean, art is great, and I still want to be an artist, but you know, helping many people reach their academic and career goals, helping people to become doctors or scientists that are going to enrich their own community. You know, there's nothing I want more than to see the developing nations become, I don't know what terminology you would use, industrialized nations or just more modern nations. You know, I don't like seeing global superpowers, my country first and foremost, dictate what happens in the international playing field. I want to see you know, other countries become empowered and become part of the global marketplace. And that's the way we're going to erode the influence of these giant conglomerates that are kind of ruining everything. And so that's a big deal, and I take that very seriously, and I am very pleased and proud of that. Yeah, in terms of the size of the channel, it's interesting because I never really saw one huge spike where, you know, one video did really well and then all of a sudden, you know, it's very slow, very continuous thing. You know, it's been 6 years. It took me almost 6 years to get to 1 million subs, and now it's getting, you know, going even faster. But yeah, it's just slow and steady wins the race, and that's what gets me up every day. That's what gets me in front of my computer every day. You know, it's hard to work this hard. It wears on you, but when you're building something that's your own, that makes that difference. I could never ever work half this hard for someone else, generating wealth for someone else. I'm a terrible employee. I don't like jobs. I don't like working for people. I don't like people telling me what to do. But when I'm building my own thing, I can become a workhorse like this. And so luckily I had the discipline to stick with it for this long, because I'm completely burnt out. I'm not going to lie. So.
Yeah, we have another question.
Mm-hmm.
We know from your videos that organic chemistry has a special spot in your heart. What is the one subject that fascinates you the most?
Yeah, I mean, organic chemistry is what I know. So I mean, I have a bachelor's in chemistry, and then both times that I was doing chemistry in graduate school, I was doing synthetic organic chemistry. And so the first time I was just taking advanced coursework, and then the second time I was actually working in a lab, and I had a thesis project. I had a total synthesis, and you know, wasn't very good at it, and definitely wasn't enthralled by the practical aspects of it, the monotony of it. But I remain conceptually fascinated by organic synthesis. I think that it is so unbelievably inspiring that we comprehend nature on the molecular level and have learned to manipulate it to the degree that we can not only characterize excuse me, characterize molecules and know what they are. That we can know molecular structures is astounding. It is absolutely unbelievable that molecules that we cannot see, we can know what they are. It's a nitrogen atom, carbon, you know, that we know molecular structures. It's absolutely astounding. But beyond that, that we can manipulate matter on that level such that we can synthesize any molecule we want, essentially. And so that inspired me. And so learning about organic synthesis and organometallic catalysis and all of these techniques for synthesis has always fascinated me. So that is a candidate for the thing that fascinates me the most. The rival would be, you know, I'm a sucker for space stuff, and I love astrophysics, and I love thinking about the universe and space. And I mean, nothing captivates my imagination more than space. So definitely those would be the two. But I got to be honest, now that I'm expanding the channel and I'm having people write for me in botany and zoology and immunology and all these things that I didn't really know almost anything about. And then, you know, they give me the scripts and then I, you know, give them to a consultant to check. And then I make my own little revisions and then I animate the content. Through that process, I learn a lot because I didn't know it. And in order to animate the content effectively, I need to understand what I'm doing and what I'm speaking. And you know, so in the process of creating the content, I come to learn all of these subjects, admittedly at a very basic level. You know, we're not terribly sophisticated, but that's really the coolest thing about being a generalist is that you just learn so much, and I learn every single day. Every time I read a script that's submitted to me, or every time I, you know, I'm trying to animate something, so I have to find the right visual. So I find a great stock image or something. I go, wow, that's how that works. And it just, you know, I have my mind blown on a daily basis when I'm learning about, you know, immunology I'm doing right now. And it's just like, oh my God, the immune system is insane. But so yeah, I'm very fortunate that, you know, I do have a lust for knowledge and I've set myself up in a career where I'm constantly learning. So that's very cool. But to answer the question succinctly, definitely organic synthesis and space stuff. Those are the two that just, yeah, blow my mind all the time.
You were talking about your videos and the preparation. We have that kind of question. What type of research is done, and how extensive do you study for a video, and how long does it take you to prepare for one?
So when I was writing the content myself, so I pretty much did so for OChem, there was no research. I was delivering my lectures as I delivered them to class. For Gen Chem, it's a little embarrassing because I know that I was going to become, in fact, I didn't even refer to a textbook. I was in the tour van writing things off the top of my head, and there are errors. It's embarrassing. And so Gen Chem, unfortunately, that went that way. Then from then on, I got more serious about it. So biochemistry, biology, astronomy, math, physics, these topics, my approach at that time, this was like 2017, 2018, I would get a number of textbooks. So I still have a number of textbooks from when I was an undergrad. And then I would order some more on Amazon. So I would like to have maybe 3 textbooks for a particular subject. And I would just refer to them. So I would craft kind of my chapter listing and then go through each textbook and sort of see how each one approaches the topic, kind of condense them, sort of pick like, oh, I really like this example, or I like the way this is worded over here, mishmash them all together, use my own words, just kind of jumble it all up until I have precisely the way that I want to explain that concept, and then come up with the visuals. And so really nothing beyond textbooks for the most part, except for the debunking stuff. Obviously, I have to do a lot of, you know, poking around on the internet to find the con men and who, you know, who's saying what. But for the academic subjects, it was really pretty much out of textbooks. Now I'm moving towards a situation where I'm doing almost none of the writing anymore. And for good reason, because I've covered everything that I have any even remote expertise on. I even went a little bit further. Like when I did my anatomy and physiology series, you know, I didn't study that at all, but I had a couple A&P, really good A&P textbooks, and all of the content breaks down to concepts in biology and biochemistry that I do understand very well. So it was sort of a situation where, like, all right, this is new terminology I did not know before, but I can immediately compartmentalize that. I understand it. I can summarize it, and it's very basic information. So, you know, I have a lot of like kind of 101 type content. So it's not that crazy. But now I'm sort of extending some of the playlists into more advanced territory. So like, for example, I'm doing quantum mechanics content, but not the very basic conceptual stuff that I had done on my own. I'm doing it with the math very rigorously. And so I have a physicist who's writing the content, and it's excruciating. He'll write the scripts and then send them over, and I'm just like, oh God, I don't understand this. And then I'll make my questions, and he'll send me another copy, and I'm like, okay, I'm a little better. I still don't understand this. And we'll have a Zoom call, and I'm like, hey, what are you talking about here? It's very laborious. But after 5 or 6 back and forth revisions, I understand the script. Definitely not an expert in quantum mechanics, but I understand particle in a box as he explained it to me. And so I'm able to animate it and make it make sense. And then I show him the animation. He says, okay, that's great. This one, change one or two things. And so it's really cool to go through that process and feel like, wow, I have an enhanced understanding of quantum mechanics, more so than the nearly non-existent understanding, at least, that I had prior. So moving forward, it's definitely going to be all about finding the right people. So I'm on those Slack groups every couple of days, looking for people. Hey, do you want to write this topic for me? You know, finding these people, and I'm usually a pretty good judge based on prior work and the exchange we have, and maybe looking at a sample where I say, all right, I'm a very good barometer for it, because we're doing topics that I don't know anything about now. So when I read a script, if I understand it, you know, if they convey it effectively to me who did not understand it, then that means it's probably going to be effective for the viewers on the channel. So that's the really cool thing about where I'm at with the channel now, is I don't even have to I don't even have to do any research now. I just choose the right personnel and they come through. So
can you tell the secret of teaching and learning chemistry? I mean, can you give tips on how to study and get better in chemistry for chem majors or
yeah, so yeah, I definitely get this a lot. And I mean, there's two, I mean, part one is that there kind of is no secret, and you know, it's just about hard work. It's just like everything else with life, is just
I felt that
taking the
I'm
time.
asking the question. This secret is kind of seems awkward.
Yeah. I mean, there's a few things I can say about it. I can say a little bit about the secret of teaching it.
Yeah.
Because okay, I can go two ways with this. In terms of the way I make my content, I feel that I've stumbled upon a little bit of an algorithm that seems to be very effective, in the way that I'm very careful with the words I choose, and then I'm very careful with the words that I display, and I'm very careful about the words that I highlight. So I think that there's some kind of magic that happens when you are, as a viewer, do not understand a topic yet, but then you hear words spoken, and you see words written with keywords highlighted, and you see an image that illustrates or depicts the concept in some way. That little trifecta of hearing the words and seeing the words, with the highlighted words directing your eyes to the key terminology, with the picture, it just sort of is this perfect storm that delivers the comprehension. So that's something that I kind of figured out early on with the channel, and now all of my content is really like that. It's not that for many of the subjects, it's not that I'm some brilliant guy that understands this topic better than everyone else in the world. It's just really about how you display the information. It has to be a very deliberate aesthetic, and you have to, when I do math, I have the equations there, but then I highlight the parts that I want you to look at, and then I color code things like this part is pink and this part is pink because we're putting this here, we're replacing it. So it's just sort of guided learning. And I think that is something that is very effective for people who have a tendency to read a textbook and just kind of zone out. You know what I mean? It's hard to read a textbook. It requires a lot more concentration than watching a video where you're sort of guided through the information. So that's something that I really focus on, is just how to guide the brain of the viewer. Look at this and listen to this, and then look at that, and this is the sequence that will help you understand this concept. And then in terms of in the classroom, when I was lecturing, I was very fortunate. So my OChem 1 instructor at Carleton College, a guy named Dave Alberg, was a really great teacher. And he just had this way of just explaining everything so clearly. It was just so clear. It was, there's a lot of teachers who I think like deliberately obfuscate concepts. There's sort of this psychological desire to feel superior to your students and sound as complicated as possible to feel smart, and a good teacher doesn't do that. A good teacher wants to convey the information. A good teacher is saying, I understand this. I want you to understand it the way I understand it. So I'm going to tell you about how I visualize it in my head. I'm going to use whatever terminology I need to use to convey the information. And get that across. And the way that the way that he designed his course too, where he just had these practice quizzes, and then the quizzes were the same as the practice quizzes with the molecule switched out. He's just very clear about the expectations, and that really that stuck with me. So when I taught, I kind of taught his way. I sort of modeled my course after his. But you know, it's yeah, in terms of learning as well, I think it's just about, oh, how to put it. I mean, so for example, okay, I'll tell you one thing that clicked for me when I was in OChem 1. When I was in OChem 1, and it's the first time you're learning about, you know, nucleophiles and electrophiles and SN2 and Diels-Alder and, you know, just like all the reactions and like, how do you keep things straight in your head? And then it's sort of, I sort of became aware of the concept of how that, you know, every reaction is some electron excess meets some electron deficiency. So you're just looking for, where is the electron excess on this molecule? Where is the electron deficiency on this molecule? Okay, we have a negative charge, or we have a lone pair, and okay, we have a carbonyl, or we have, you know, a carbon halogen bond, or whatever it is. Once you kind of train your mind to look at it that way, then you can look at a pair of molecules, or, you know, some substrate that you don't normally see, or some interesting reagent that is a new kind of reagent, and you can go, all right, well, I think I know what this is going to do, because we see electron excess there, and then that's probably going to attack right here. So it's these little conceptual light bulb moments that sort of make everything else kind of fall into place. I think that if you can find those, you know, because I'm going to admit, I wasn't like the most studious student when I was an undergrad. Like, I did okay, you know, I made sure to do okay, you know, on exams and stuff, but I wasn't the one in the library every night, like going through the textbook, you know, all this stuff. I think that helps. And if you have the discipline to do that, obviously the more you study, the better. Get your flashcards, you know, put all the name reactions on the flashcards. It's really just repetition and time and doing those practice problems, and you know, but it really is about those fundamental, you know, when you're, you know, when it's like, okay, here's some Grignard reactions, here's some Diels-Alder reactions, things like that. It's about understanding, all right, Diels-Alder, every Diels-Alder makes a 6-membered ring. So retro Diels-Alder, here's the 6-membered ring, here's where we got to break it. It's about, I think that a lot of students fall into the pitfall of looking at examples and convincing themselves they comprehend the examples and therefore will be able to do another example, whereas it's really the practice, it's really the act of, all right, I need to go through as many practice problems as possible and make sure that I can take these principles but apply them to a pair of molecules I've never seen before, you know, things like that. So yeah, I mean, there's unfortunately not that much more to say. As you can imagine, I get this all the time. I get this by email every day. Just, what is the secret? How can I understand chemistry? And it's the same as, what's the secret? How do I lose weight? What's the secret? How do I become successful in business? What's the secret? There's not one. It's time and effort. You know, it's just like everything else. And the bad news is there's no shortcut. But the good news is, if you put the time and effort in, it's probably going to work out. That's just sort of the nature of life. And so yeah, I've rambled on for a while there, but hopefully there's something of value in there.
We can take one. Well, if you somehow choose to stay in academic world, what do you see yourself researching about?
So I'm not in the academic world, and I do not do research, and don't plan to. I mean, you know, as much as it would be cool to have a PhD in some topic, it wouldn't really be a wise use of my time, because I am a generalist. So even if I had a PhD in organic chemistry, it's not going to help me talk about astrophysics, you know, which I want to do. If I had a PhD in astrophysics, it's not going to help me talk about immunology, you know, any of these things. So as a generalist, I'm totally disinterested in doing research. And in fact, when I was doing research in grad school, I did not like it. I did not enjoy it. I did find it very tedious. So the two things I want to say about that are, if you are invigorated by being in the lab, and you know that, and you go in there and you think every day, oh man, this is so cool, I can't wait to get back to the lab to try this other thing. And then you go home and you go to sleep, you know, you're going to bed and you think, oh, I'm going to try that tomorrow, this is going to be so cool. That is amazing. I don't have that. If you have that, that's phenomenal. You're going to be a great scientist, and you go be a good scientist. But if you're studying science and you don't have that, there are many other things you can do with science. You know, you can be a science communicator. You can, there's so many things that you can do with science apart from research. So yeah, unfortunately, yeah, I don't have much to say there. It would be cool just to do some research. I think astronomy is like what I would do if I had to choose, but I don't intend to, and probably will not. So.
Well, thank you. It was really amazing to have you here as a speaker.
Sorry, hold on.
No problem.
Got a little noisy there.
Well, we can finish it if you want.
Whatever you guys want. Yeah, if you have more questions, I've got time, or if that's it, yeah, no problem.
Well, I do not have another question. If you guys have another question, I can ask to Dave. If you don't, we can just finish it. I think we don't have any question. Well, thank again for your speech and all your kind kind answers to the questions. If you somehow come to Istanbul, it will be amazing to do something at the campus, or hang out, or do something else. It would be amazing.
Absolutely, that would be amazing for me. I can't wait to. I think everybody's itching to travel here post-COVID, and Istanbul would be phenomenal destination for me. So, yeah.